Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to Relationship Matters podcast. It's so good to have you. We are having empowering conversations about relationships. I started this podcast a couple of years ago just because I felt like we needed to have these conversations. It feels like relationships are under such stress nowadays, and they're getting pulled in every direction. And I'm seeing it in my world. And so I wanted to have these really deep conversations with great guests and specialists. But remember, every expert's also a regular person, and so we have both on our show. And today is no exception. We have an amazing expert, but also a great human being, Darlene Unruh. We want to just welcome you. Darlene is married to Kim for over 35 years and is a mom and proud grandma. She leads an amazing program called True to You. It's an abstinence-based program developed by Darlene from gathering resources provided through the local pregnancy care center. She has had incredible opportunities locally, nationally, and internationally to provide presentations to students from grade 6 to university in schools, athletic organizations, both public and private. The training of youth influencers, including parents, is her passion, since they are the ones in the front lines and they are having those 1,000 little conversations rather than the one big talk with those kids. And so, and it's about relationships and healthy sexuality as God intended them to be. Welcome, Darlene. It's good to have you. I'm always glad to have you on the show.
Thank you, Mark. I feel very welcome.
Yes, you are always welcome. And I'm just amazed at the work you do. And I wanted to have you back on to go a little deeper because I don't know about you, but the landscape of youth today has shifted so dramatically, so quickly. And so I really think parents are struggling to know how to have those relevant conversations, those conversations that can empower their kids, but also, where they are not feeling like, they're these polarizing conversations where the division comes in and whatnot. And so why don't you just share a little bit? I mean, you must be seeing a shift amongst the young people today.
I do. I think that in the last few years, it's accelerated to the point where there's so many no-go zones. There's
Right.
so many zones that you tread so carefully, as if on eggshells. And
Yeah.
what I'm noticing is when I do a healthy relationship workshop, and I emphasize a healthy relationship is able to disagree respectfully, right?
Right.
That gives kind of this eye roll or this eyebrow lift. And when I'll say, so is it possible? Or are there certain conversations you are not allowed to have with people? I can't, and I'll start with, I can't suggest that the Vancouver Canucks are not a credible team. And then I'll hear a whole bunch of groans and, and so, but then they'll say, so then there's political things. And of course, COVID gave a whole lot of opportunities for a lack of respectful disagreement. And then, of course, in the landscape of sexuality. So what I'm noticing, though, is there's not an opportunity to say, here's reality, here's what I actually see and observe with my eyes and my ears. And then there's perception. And those two are in constant, chaos, actually, right now.
Yeah.
And so I have students that will come to me and say, oh, just so you know, today I'm a man and yesterday I was a woman. And, I'm, and the engagement I get to have with them as individuals is very different than the engagement I'm required to have as a presenter to a whole class. Right. So as individuals, I get to give them my full respect and attention, but I might be disagreeing at the same time. I'm so sorry. I can't believe this.
That's all right. Just hit end. Yeah, there you go.
I just told her, you can't do this. Oh my goodness. I guess you can edit that out.
No, we'll leave it in.
And say, that's my grandson. He wants to
just
say,
like we're live. Well, listen, when your grandson calls, you got to.
I know. So. The whole world stops.
I know what it's like. Yeah. Anyway.
Okay, I'm sorry that I don't know how to do that, Okay, let's go back to it.
So what you've been saying, what you said to me one time earlier before we went on air here, is that it's become what that's done is it's created a culture where kids can't disagree anymore.
No, they can't. Not in certain areas.
Yeah,
There's acceptable, and then there's this is bullying, this is racist, this is phobic. So everything's connected to a fear as opposed
right.
to reality. And we are in a post-science world where science used to be king, and some people actually perceive science as being anti-God, obviously ignoring that some of the most famous scientists in the world and historically have been ones who are, love God and just want to discover how he's created the universe.
Right.
But being a post-science world, that means that science is not your compass. It's your feelings and the self. And the self is
Right.
God. The self is king. And so, my truth, my feelings, they trump what you see and hear. And the whole medical community, including the psychiatric community, has bought in wholesale. And I think it's, again, it's fear. It's fear that I'm going to lose my job. It's fear that I'm going to be bullied online. It's fear that I'm going to be canceled as a person. And I think corporations are responding in fear. And I don't know how far you're going to see it go. There's that conversation. How far can something go? But we are seeing a bit of a backlash now that children are standing up and saying, I was taken advantage of. I wasn't challenged with the reality. And so when it becomes a litigation issue, people seem to back up. But these are conversations that we're not generally allowed to have. So it's quite something that you're allowing me to talk about this, unless this will be edited out.
No, it won't be. And the thing is, if I get canceled, I get canceled. That doesn't bother me. Because here's the thing, I'm not, this conversation is not about politics. It's not about what we're allowed and not allowed to do. What I want to talk about is the impact on the kids. What has this done? What have you witnessed this do to kids? Because you're with them in the classroom every day. You're seeing them. You're having those conversations. What has this done? First of all, what's the impact on children? And then the second part is, what's the impact on family life because of this?
Well, yeah. And as I said, it's like there's a muzzle on free conversation.
And free thinking.
And free thinking. Well, being able to question, which is the basis of good education, right? You want to question things. So you want to have a hypothesis, see if it's accurate. And that you have to think a certain way, and everyone has to agree about everything all the time. And those areas are expanding and expanding, seem to have a dampening effect on kids' curiosity. It's like they're going to the internet, and so the internet has become, and I'll reference this often in presentations. Where's the worst place to go for information on relationships? Because I talk about relationships. And they'll be like, the internet. I'm like, why? And they all have the answers. But because there's not a freedom that they're sensing, that's what they're left with. And if their parents are uncomfortable, and parents are increasingly uncomfortable talking with their neighbors, like, is my neighbor going to be offended and shut me out? Am I going to lose my job if I say, I'm not sure about this, or I'm not sure what I think about this, or I'm concerned about this. So it's like everyone's doing this little self-regulating or self-censorship. And I see a heightened confusion. I'm also seeing in classrooms teachers who are not allowed to just bring clarity for students. They're just trying to manage things. And they're not sure what to say, how to say things. They're exhausted. One teacher described a girl who, she changes her name every week. And she said, I just can't keep up after 4 months. I have to say, look, honey, I'm not a young one anymore. I can't remember your name changing every week. as well as,
Right.
orientation in different areas. Could you just pick one for school for a little while? And she's just asking out of
Yeah.
desperation. She's not trying to be disrespectful. But
Yeah.
when there's
Yeah.
no basis in reality or science anymore, then we're all kind of
Right.
pooped.
But my concern, though, for kids and children is that what does that do to them, like mentally? Trauma comes at different levels, and yes, there's the big traumas we know about where there's abuse or whatever, but also we also know now, even psychology admits that there's micro traumas when there's a disconnect between your a disconnect, like when you're not known or you're not heard, and that can create, when you're not heard or known, it can create many traumas in your life that affect you emotionally, that affect your mental health. And what I'm seeing is decline of mental health in these children to a significant level because they are being traumatized by these messages, by this confusion in itself, even traumatizing themselves in a sense. And I'm concerned for their well-being. Like we just need to love these children, not confuse them.
Well,
And
they, as I mentioned, they don't have the authorities in their life, teachers or parents,
yeah,
who are able to bring that guidance of saying, look, that is happening, but you don't have to worry because you're okay.
right,
I see you and I know you.
right.
Now parents aren't allowed to say, I see you or I know you, because it's all dependent on how that child feels at any given moment.
That's my point. Is that if I see them in one way, I see them in their gender, and I'm acknowledging them respectfully, and I care about them. But then they've decided that day that that's not their gender and that's not their, like, now I'm not on, like, now they're going to feel like they're not seen or heard. So it's a moving target that makes it very difficult for somebody to express love and to receive love at a core level that we were designed to do. We were created in God's image. We were designed to receive and to give love. That's one of the four tenets of life, is that we were born out of love. And so I wonder, and our significance comes from being loved. So this must be very, very difficult for kids
Oh
to
yeah, and they
manage.
watch adults backing off, and they feel it
Yeah,
backing off because
right,
fear paralyzes.
right,
Fear paralyzes us. How should I respond? Should I respond? Okay, maybe I'll just distance myself. I'll just be busy. I'll just do what I
right.
need to do, and maybe it'll all go away, or I'll distract myself, right? And so I see the
Mm,
challenges around parenting and teaching and being a youth influencer,
right,
and anyone who's working with children or teenagers or young or
right.
new adults. I like calling them.
Yeah, yeah,
It's an incredible challenge. But I think the basic questions that we can continue to ask are
yeah,
there. Like and I think that balance of truth and love, if you only, and it seems like love, but I would um maybe grace and truth would be better. I don't know which two you want to use, but people who will give love without any truth, there's a
yeah,
confusion. And people who give
yeah,
truth without any love, there's rebellion. So
yeah.
it's both those things together. Now, how we present truth to
Right.
people is really significant. It needs to be respectful,
Yeah,
compassionate, caring, because we have, and I like calling it compassionate conviction,
yeah,
but we don't have to come in with, this is the way it is. We can come in with, what
right.
you observed. Would you like to know my opinion? Or what, would you like to get my take on it? And not
Yeah,
on the heels of, what are you thinking?
right.
But really
Yeah,
listening, jumping
yeah. When I'm
into the world. Yeah.
totally, yeah. When I'm teaching, I often say asking questions de-escalates, and making statements escalates. So let's get some practical. Let's get to some practical things then, because you kind of you're going there for parents or for youth influencers, young adult influencers. What are some practical things they can do in this culture, in this day and age, to try and bring that. So you've identified like love and truth. I like that. Grace, I think, is a product of love. So, and love is what casts out all fear. So let's start with love and truth. What are some ways that can be delivered in a way that would be that would open up a conversation? I think we got to get back to the conversations, get back to the 1,000 little conversations like you talk about. How do we do that as people that are influencing kids?
I think respectful curiosity. So what do you think is the biggest challenge for teenagers growing up today? Or why would people say these teen years are so challenging? Or, just again, curious about their opinion. I don't know very many people who won't give their opinion if you ask it as an opinion question.
Right.
Because there's no right or wrong,
Right.
And, if you have an ongoing relationship with a teenager or a child, it can be, what's the weirdest thing you heard today? I think I shared this before, maybe, that we do high lows and buffaloes, which sounds silly, but what's your high of the day? What's your high of the day? What's your low of the day? What's your buffalo of the day? Like what kind of threw you? What did you see that was weird? Or what did you hear that was strange? And then I have to work on my face, because it's not just the words I use. If I'm asking a question like, what do you think? I look like I'm going to eat you alive. If I look like I'm ready to criticize whatever's coming out of your mouth, then you're less likely to respond well. Usually by the age of 12, they say, or 10, depends on the child, kids can pretty well tell another person what their parent thinks about any given topic. So, you can ask, what do you think I think about that? To see if they're accurate in that. But it's not so much of here's what it is after a certain age. It's, what are you thinking about that? What kind of things have you heard out there that make you question what you thought you knew? What have you seen recently on the media that frustrates you or demoralizes you or makes you question who you are? Because there's things that I saw in the media yesterday, a song I heard or a report I saw, talking about your own experiences, but doing it in a really wide open way and not in a judgmental. Because we do have a whole environment now that is really hates the word judgment. Like, don't judge, even though there's a healthy kind of judgment. It's like really in life, we do need healthy judgment. Like, it's snowing outside right now and I need to judge accurately what footwear I wear. If there's a foot of snow outside, wearing slippers is not good judgment.
Right.
But having said that, so that word judge, you got to keep it off the table and be more passionate in suggesting that there are actually different ways of thinking about it, depending on what your values are and depending on what your worldview is. Right. So if you have a worldview that yourself is the determiner of truth, well, then it's all up to how you feel, whether you want to even feed your child or not. If that child is kind of a pain, that day, I don't feel like feeding you, or if I don't feel like paying my bills, why should I? They have enough money. Then I'm going to have some consequences that are going to come pretty quickly. So we, you get to talk about worldviews, and worldviews, you can have those conversations at really young ages. So if you have this worldview where you believe in God and that he actually has a plan and a desire and a creative, design, then how would that affect your life? If you believe there is no God and this is all chaos and that, we just are some kind of primordial ooze that have developed into beings and there is no life after death, how would that affect your worldview? So you're doing a lot of helping them jump into what other people's worldviews might be so that they can be respectful and understanding and saying that totally makes sense if you have that worldview. Like it's not, oh, what a horrible person. Because what we have to remember, if you are a follower of Jesus or a person of faith, is we're not wrestling against people.
Yeah.
We're wrestling against mindsets that actually pull people
Right.
down and tear them apart and rip apart relationships and rip apart a fabric of even who you are. And I've got to say that if I had to, on a daily basis, wake up in the morning and decide who I am that day, I would be exhausted.
Got to be exhausting.
I can't even imagine. Now, it's hard enough for me to get up and go, okay, what should I wear? You know, and I know that's a girl thing. My husband just picks what he laid down on the chair the night before. I know. Like he takes it off, puts it down, until I go, hey, I said I like the shirt, but you can stop, okay? Stop wearing it. But I like being creative, and so what do I want to wear? Okay, it's kind of Christmassy. I'll wear this. But the exhaustion level, and so to be able to reflect that when your child comes home and says, "Yeah, they say they're a boy today," say, "Oh, that must be so exhausting.
Yeah,
that must be so
yeah.
confusing." So you're reflecting. You're showing compassion.
Yeah,
And
I love that.
if we're talking about the gender issues, especially respecting and appreciating and celebrating the huge no, my brain just stopped. The huge diversity within femininity or masculinity, right?
Right.
And instead of saying, well, oh man, hunt and fish, and no, some men are master designers and poets, and sometimes they're great cooks and they're, great hunters, and sometimes, they sing angelically, and they also like, chopping wood, like, so to not put it not say this is anti-female or anti-male, but the more the confusion is, often it seems like the more polarizing the way we describe masculinity and femininity is, which is taking away the individuality of each person. So celebrating the son who loves ballet. He loves ballet. That's fantastic. It's very
celebrate
masculine.
their personhood. Yeah.
That's right.
So celebrate their personhood, not anything else. But I love what you said in that whole piece, because they're going to have the conversation with someone, and chance conversation is going to be online, and it's going to be with people that can hide behind an avatar. And so you don't, I would rather be the one that's having those conversations with my kids, even if they're difficult, even if you have to agree to disagree sometimes, or actually concede. I don't fully understand, but I sure do love you. I sure do believe in you. I think that, that is amazing. You're an amazing person. And so I think that we really need to get proactive in that from the youngest possible age as possible. I think that it's okay to tell kids, listen, it's okay to have emotions. It's okay to emote.
Oh, you better.
But you don't have to make life decisions based on that emotion.
Right. And then again, you want to do little role plays. So what kind of decisions am I going to make if I'm furious with my brother? What do I want to do? What do I want to do that actually end up causing me great harm or them great harm and deep regret? So I like saying, the stronger the emotion, the more important it is to stop and think. And that thinking is the mature part, because babies just feel and do. Right? They just do. And that's fantastic. I've got two, especially one 1-year-old, and she feels hungry and it, and she's tired and it, right? But if I walk into a class, I go, how many of you are hungry right now? How come you're not crying? Okay. It's because you have that opportunity to stop and think for a moment. And that's the maturity and to weigh things out. I do think with parents, one thing that we try to ask our kids, even though they're adults, is maybe once a year, we'll say, so what have I done to break trust, and what could I do to build more trust with you? If it's your very first conversation with a child, you could say, so of the 100% that you know, or the 100% of you, what percentage of that do you think I know?
Right.
And if they go, 10, It's like, okay, try really hard not to let your face go, what? But I birthed you, right? But to go, okay, so how do you think we could move that to 15? Like, what could I do to gain a little more trust?
Right. That's
And
so good.
and who does know you, and what is it about them that you trust?
Yeah.
And a healthy um, skepticism towards media all the way from when they're little is a really good idea. Like right from the beginning. So what are they trying to sell you? What's the message behind that?
Right.
So that I love this one guy. He said, with my kids from the very beginning, I call it amusement as opposed to entertainment. And amusement is about musing, thinking.
Right.
So he'll say, okay, so when we either in the middle of stuff, not when it's at the most exciting moment, right? You're not going to do that. But okay, popcorn break. You go get some popcorn, you make it, and you start talking. Okay, what was that about? You know, what worldview did that person have? Who was there? Who was there? What was their guiding truth? What were they trying to accomplish? What are their goals in life? You know, and so that you're teaching your kids a healthy ability to interact with the things that they're getting online.
Right. What's interesting about this, Darlene, is we are actually calling parents to do the things that they should have done, like our parents and their parents should have done generations ago. And that is have these kinds of conversations on a regular basis. Parenting is hard work. There's no shortcuts. You got to take the time. I always say, quality time happens within quantity time. I used to give my kids a ride to school and pick them up from school. And I used to get teased about that a little bit, like, you're spoiling them. Why are you spoiling them? The reason I did that was because that was the best 30-minute conversation I would have with them maybe in the week. And I got it twice a day. Because then I'm hearing, especially fresh out of school, I'm hearing all of the Friends drama that took place, and I can ask questions and be curious. And I thought, I just think that we have parents have. I just want to encourage you, be very intentional with these conversations. Like, notice these things that Darlene is telling you. Like, use the environment around you to actually start the conversations and the things that you do together, and ask questions and find out where their thinking is. Because if we had done that generations ago, we may not have gone down this road of getting rid of science, getting rid of those things. Like, culturally, there has been a breaking down of the family unit, and certainly the parenting skills haven't always been there. I know in my father's and my grandfather's generations, men didn't show emotion. They didn't talk. They didn't share. And I know you've talked before, Darlene, that your dad broke that cycle, and I had to break it for my family. And so it's, if you can take any encouragement today, it's simpler than you think, but it's not easy. You have to.
Yeah, that's good.
It's simple, but it's not easy. You've got to invest the time. Dads, have those conversations, even if they're awkward. I always say, if you want to have a good meal, you set the table first. So just set the table. Tell your kids, they're not dumb. They know. Just say, hey, Dad's not too good at this stuff. I do, but I want to just ask you what you're feeling these days, what you're seeing these days, what's influencing you. Like, I want to know you. People want to be known and heard. Tell them, I want to know you, so I want to listen to you. Right.
And every kid wants a great relationship with their parents.
Yeah.
They actually really do. They might be frustrated and irritated with them, but you can even ask them, what kind of relationship do you want to have with me? Like, what words do you want to describe it? Do you want it to be trusting? Do you want it to be honest? Do you want it to be kind? Do you give them, what do you want? And then as write it on a piece of paper, stick it on your fridge and say, okay, this is our goal for our relationship. And then
that's powerful.
What are you willing to do to make it like this? Because here's what I'm willing to do. And think about that. brainstorm together. And you're not going to take everything on there. You're going to cross out, well, this isn't doable. No, we can't, take the private jet this week and go somewhere because we don't have a private jet, stuff like that. So there's things that are not reasonable, but there are things that are. And then, we get to ask ourselves, is what I'm doing right now getting me closer to that goal or further from it? Because this is what I want with you. And I want to be an influence in your life, but I actually want you to be an influence in my life too, because you get to, I like you and I want a relationship with you. Now, I got to say that I didn't always like all of my sons all the time. And so that's really okay. And I get to go and, talk it out with a friend or go for an angry walk and mutter and and come back at the end of the day. So I'm really committed to you, whether you want me to be or not. Like I'm here. I'm not going anywhere because I love you. And that love is a commitment. So, you know what? I was a woman as a mom. I was very sensitive to shoulds. So I often say, I'm not trying to should on anybody. I don't want to should do this. I should do that. What do I want to do? And to keep it as positive as possible, because I'm a person, unfortunately, who tends towards the glass is half empty. I always see what I could have done better. I'm very hard on myself naturally. I'm married to somebody who's very kind and very generous with me, but I often think, oh, I could have done it better. He goes, babe, we all can. He's so good for me.
Yeah.
So I have to constantly go, what did I do right? Oh, I risked. Yay! I stuck my little neck out there. And what I love about the phrase 1,000 little conversations is, so I screwed up one. Okay, I screwed up another one. I got 998 left.
Yeah.
And
so
it's probably
good.
thousands rather than 1,000. Because it's not about how many times you fall, it's to get back up.
Yeah.
And that's what I love reminding myself as well as I remind, my kids, hey, you got back up. And that wasn't easy. And that's, I think, a piece of staying with our kids, especially as they get older, the authenticity of tell them when you screwed up.
Yeah.
I really blew it. Not just with them, but man, I blew it today. I was so rude to that customer service person. It was not their fault. Not cool, man. And just let them back up. That kind of humility, that kind of, and not beating yourself up on and on and on about it, but like, oh man, I need to go back and apologize, or hey, and checking in. Hey, yesterday when I said that came across a little harsh. Is that sticking? Are you okay? Because I needed. I would tell my guy, you're going to be so good in marriage. You're going to be so good at forgiving because you've had so many opportunities to forgive me. I'm going to blow it. And even with people making huge decisions in their life, and them watching people make these huge decisions in their life, I get to, as I communicate my values, saying, you know what? I'm so thankful that there's a way back. I'm so thankful that there's no one who can ever get so far away from God that it's impossible to get back. I'm so glad God's pursuing them. And let them hear me and see me pray for them out loud, in the cars. They're telling me this story, like afterwards, can we just pray for them right now? Oh, Jesus, they seem so confused and so hurting right now. Would you just, would you keep pursuing them so that they would know that they're so valuable to you? Yeah. Just
so good.
Again, it's 1,000 little conversations. It doesn't have to be hours. It doesn't have to be a sermon. It can just be 30 seconds so that they see your heart and that you get to say to them just every once in a while, hey, you know what? You could screw up so bad. Like I could end up embarrassed and, oh, I can't believe they did that. And I would still long for you to come home so I could hug you and make your favorite hot chocolate and just listen to your heart, what's going on, so that they always know there's a way back home. Because they're going to screw up. I screwed up. You screwed up. We all screw up. So
absolutely.
Right. And I think,
I want them to know.
Yeah, go ahead.
You want them to know your heart for them is home.
Yeah. And our heart for the world.
Anytime. Yes.
Yeah, and the
Yeah.
heart for the world, so that they don't assume they have to shield us
Right.
from their friends, or the compassion that they're feeling towards somebody
Yeah.
who they really like and is making a decision that they know their parent will completely disagree with.
Yeah.
Because I believe that compassion is of God. Compassion is suffering with somebody. But
Right.
there's a twisted kind of compassion that has taken it to, I'm going to protect this person and guard them from the whole world, and say, you can't tell them what to do or how to feel. You can't tell them they're wrong.
Right.
And so there's an offense being taken up on the part of sometimes their friend, somebody they care about. And that's, and their compassion is beautiful.
Yeah.
They don't understand that it is not loving to enable somebody to do
Right.
something that's harmful to themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so
And that
important because
we're all learning that.
this. Yeah. Yeah. It's important, Darlene, because it really is a mission-driven generation. Even though a lot of the foundation of it's not healthy and not good for them, they are mission-driven. They're compassion-driven, and so when you can join them on that, there's a
Yes.
connection. There's a
Yes.
connection, or invite them to be part of your mission. There's a
Yes.
connection. You know what? We're going
Yeah.
to love. I love you. You love me, and we're going to love the world together.
Yeah.
And we're going to make a difference. We're gonna show that compassion in healthy ways, in ways that are going to really actually bring real change and real help to people that need it most.
And
And so,
I think I naturally shy away from difficult conversations. I'd rather not.
yeah, sure, you
So
wouldn't.
my kids know that about me, so they know, as you said, set the table. Going, I'm
Yeah,
uncomfortable talking about this,
yeah,
but you're so important. I really want
yeah,
to. I want to, because I think on the other side of this conversation, I'm going to feel closer to you
yeah,
because I know you more, and I can't make a choice for my kids of what they're going to believe in the end, but I can live an
right,
authentic faith.
right. Yeah, which was kind of a question I had, but I think we answered. Is that how do we shield our kids from all of that then? Because I think there's a lot of parents thinking right now, like, I just want to protect them. I gotta, like, you know, keep
Yeah.
them at home, never let them out. How do we, I think maybe everything you've said will answer that question, but is there a specific thing that you have taught parents to do to shield their kids from those messages as best you can?
Well, I think
Or
I work a lot with homeschooling parents in different
yeah,
seasons of
yeah,
my time. And what I've asked them to consider is not homeschooling to protect their kids, but to prepare their kids.
oh,
So
good.
it's a very different paradigm,
Yeah,
right? So it's like, this is happening. And at an appropriate time, you want to let them know this is happening.
right.
So,
Wow. I like that because, Russell Wilson used to be the quarterback for the Seattle
yeah, yeah.
Seahawks. He had a line that I really liked that said, "Separation's in the preparation." So
Huh.
if you truly want your kids to be, separated in the sense of being their own person, knowing who they are, uh, you know, unto the Lord, the preparation is vital. So I love that. So that's how you don't shield your kids, you prepare them.
Yeah.
You don't give them. You remember even the armor of God. There is a shield of faith, but the shield of faith is a verb. It's active. It's not defensive. We got to
Yeah.
get out. I think followers of Jesus and Christians, the church in general, needs to get out of defensive mode and start getting into faith mode and getting into love mode and being proactive rather than reactive. Because I think our reactions just prove how intolerant we are. Whereas if our proactives can show how loving we are,
Yeah.
and that's a big difference in the approach, right?
Yeah. And I think I like talking about it like glasses. So this is happening. What glasses
Yeah.
do you want to put on? Do you want to put glasses on of shock and revulsion? Or
Yeah.
do you want to put glasses on of compassion and understanding? How could
Yeah.
somebody get there? What messages were they listening to get to that conclusion?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I had that conversation recently, Darlene, with somebody just saying, like, because they were really like they were angry at government people, at school system people, at healthcare people. And I just said, whatever has happened very quickly. But do you not see that they need our compassion too? Because to be that fooled, to be that confused, to be able to actually intentionally harm children without when they don't think they are, they think they're helping.
that's right.
We need to have compassion for them. We need to actually show them love as well.
I think
That's
it's
hard.
the same
That's hard.
skill. Yeah. Oh, it's the same skill we need in marriage and in when teaching our kids how to deal with their siblings and teaching them how to deal with the world. Argue their point.
Right.
Somebody you disagree with, argue their point. And if you can argue their point well, then I believe that you understand them and care enough about them to be able to have an intelligent conversation with them if and when they want to.
Yeah.
Because if I don't feel like you even understand me, why should you speak into my life? But if you can jump into my world and say, Darlene, I can see how you got to that position and actually prove that to me, then you have a little bit of credibility.
Right.
I still may not agree with you. I still may not want to have the conversation. But you will disarm me. And you will allow me to believe that you can put on a pair of glasses so you can actually see where I'm coming from. Because so much of our in ourself, we want to just talk until you agree with me. Come on, you. And I felt that with my kids. Like if I just say it louder and longer and slower, and they would get it. And I can speed up the whole process by jumping over the fence, looking at things from their perspective, and suddenly they're softened. And I like that whole term that I think it was Gordon Neufeld that introduced it: soften before you solve.
Yeah.
So, but if I'm acting like a parent that I don't want to see what the world's doing, I don't want to hear what the world's doing, then I'm not going to speak about what the world's doing. Right. And not that everything has to be thrown at our kids all the time, but every once in a while you're going to get opportunities, and you got to trust the Holy Spirit and the guts, the courage to take that moment to say, yeah, that's happening.
Yeah, for sure. It's not a time to be blind to things or to put our heads in the sand. It's a time to get educated and to understand and to really, I say, connect before you direct. So don't, you gotta understand before you can, before you can give direction and tell them what to do. I know there's lots, some parents might be listening and saying, I'm the parent, I tell them what to do. Yeah, well, that hasn't worked very well. I think,
it works until a certain point. Up until a certain point, it works.
Yeah.
And it doesn't,
Yeah. You got to know what phase of parenting you're in too. You're not the cop anymore when they're teenagers. You got to be a coach at best, right? And so, so such a good conversation, Darlene. Is there anything you kind of that's sitting in your heart that you were hoping I'd ask that you want to get out there to tell everybody?
I guess I would like to say, pray. Just let your kids hear you pray.
Right.
And some of us are very uncomfortable praying out loud, but it can just be, Jesus, please help me right now. Or I'm going into this meal at Christmas time and I'm not feeling really loving right now. Would you give me more love? Let them see our reliance on God for the wisdom and the compassion. Right. So the truth and the love. Right. So we need both. And probably Christmas time is going to be a time that there will be different either neighbors or family members that won't think exactly the way you do on everything. Yeah. So let our kids see us leaning into God for that wisdom and trusting Him to guide us. because there's nothing like the modeling. I can talk myself silly, and I do love teaching.
Yeah.
But my modeling speaks so much louder than my words.
It's true enough. I agree 100%.
Yeah.
So good, Darlene. Thank you so much for this conversation. We're scratching surfaces, but I think you gave some real practical tips for parents today. Practical tools. I want to encourage you, parents, if this has spoken to you, or you know people who are struggling. I was thinking of a couple of families right now I'm going to send this to. Just share this video out. Share it to the people, parents that you know, your friend group, and it's such valuable information, because we don't think of these things. We're we get in that defensive posture, and we're onslaughted with all the information that takes place. Imagine with us old people getting onslaught with what it does to a young person who doesn't have the maturity to process it or to be able to turn it off. And so I just want to encourage you to really share this video out with people, this episode. If you're listening on in the podcast format, send it to somebody that you know could really benefit from it. And Darlene, I've actually got, I know you do the True to You. What's their True to You website is truetoyou.ca.
When I'm going into the public schools, the website is truetoyouokanagan.com.
Okanagan, True to You Okanagan. But you and Kim can be reached at radicalrelationships.love. I love that .love thing. I didn't know that was available.
Yeah,
but radicalrelationships.love.
Yeah, and that's for anyone in the faith-based community.
Yes, yeah. So if you want to reach out and get more information, more help, you can get a hold of Darlene or Kim there, because Kim's an excellent coach as well. And of course, I'm always available to you too if you need me. And so there you go. There's our episode. We talked about those hard issues that we're facing today. Listen, you, in doing what Darlene has suggested today, if you could start to apply that, you will not only help your kids, you'll help their friends. You'll become the hub that is the safe zone. And that's what Sandy and I always try to do. We try to create our family as the safe hub. All their friends would come to us and be part of our thing, because they knew that they would receive love, not judgment. They knew they would receive truth, not distortions. And so we really encourage you to do that, to be proactive, to be the safe place for your kids, to be home for your kids and for their friends. And this is the way we can change the world. This is the way we can actually allow God to work through us in a very positive and clear way. And politics, you can't beat politics with more politics. You got to move in the opposite spirit, people. Move in the opposite spirit.
Absolutely. And when we don't have an answer in that moment, they say something or do something, we don't have to respond right away. We can go, I need some time to think about that. It's okay. It's really, I need to go pray about that. I need to go talk to Mark about that.
Yeah, for sure.
And we're modeling humility again. We're modeling to them.
Yeah.
We're not trying to pretend we are the be all and end all. And we do our research. Yeah.
That's it, for sure. All right. Well, thanks so much, Darlene. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Share this video out. I hope it was a blessing to you. It was a great blessing to me. Great reminders in there, even for me in my old age, from my grandkids. And so thanks so much. We'll talk to you next time.